This book, the BBC television Shakespeare, The Merchant of Venice, contains the full text, introductions to the play and this television production with a glossary, notes and colour illustrations. It costs £2 and is available from booksellers from Friday. The next play in the BBC television Shakespeare is All's Well That Ends Well, and that's on BBC2 on the first Sunday in January. Tomorrow on two great railway journeys of the world, Eric Robson travels from London to Budapest, sampling some of the sights, the scenery, and of course the trains of Europe, modern and antique.
Quaint it may be, but the Witznau Regibahn isn't surviving for any reasons of sentiment. It's been getting the mails and supplies through without a break since the day in 1871, when in the middle of the turmoil of the Franco-Prussian War, it was opened as Europe's first mountain railway. You certainly need a head for heights. When Mark Twain travelled this way, he felt that the 1 in 5 gradients, and being quite so close to the edge, provided a good opportunity for remembering his sins and repenting of them. Today it's the Japanese who are the best party customers.
Great railway journeys of the world with Eric Robson tomorrow at 9 o'clock here on 2. Now on BBC2, Newsnight.
Chairman Hua on the way out of China's leadership. Vice Chairman Deng, Hu Yaobang and Premier Zhao. Are they the masters now? Good evening. China may be on the verge of another political upheaval. Judging by today's newspaper editorials in Peking, Chairman Hua is accused of making errors and refusing to admit them. He seems set to lose his post as chairman. We'll be hearing from Philip Short in Peking about the intense political manoeuvring now going on. And Richard Harris, Asia specialist for The Times, who's met the new Chinese premier, explains why Hua is falling. From the Bank of England, a warning that industrial output will continue to fall next year and unemployment will continue to rise. In Northern Ireland, fears for the condition of 2 of the Republican hunger strikers, while the Loyalist hunger strikers stop their protest. Linda Alexander has those stories. Tomorrow, Sir Peter Parker tries to persuade British rail unions not to strike about lack of investment in the rail network, as the Rail Board warned that any strike might threaten the very existence of the rail network. NewsNight reports on British Rail's shortage and how a tiny marine worm is threatening to bring an entire line in Wales to a dead stop.
Tomorrow, Rolls-Royce will know whether they've won an order that'll guarantee 100,000 jobs. They want to put this engine into the new Boeing airliner that's expected to sweep the aviation world. I'll be reporting on Rolls' prospects of success.
And in sport, the future of Scotland's national stadium. Is it the end for Hampden Park? We've a special report in our sports section. In Peking, all the signs point to one conclusion, that Chairman Hua, the chosen successor of Mao Zedong himself, may be about to lose his post and most of his hold on power in China. All Peking's papers today carried editorials universally regarded as pointing at Hua without actually naming him. They asked, can the leading comrade of the corps commit errors? And their unanimous reply, yes, he could. And that though mistakes are natural, a refusal to admit them can lead only to serious problems. The leading comrade, who was accused of a personality cult, was urged to take responsibility for his errors, and his followers were told not to attempt to resist Hua's removal. Well, if Hua is on the way out, it seems to end a remarkable 4-year cycle of rise and fall, and throws light on China's uneasy transition from the Maoist era to its successor. Most puzzling, the trial of the Gang of Four was suspended on Saturday with no indication of when it will resume. And as Philip Short now reports from Peking, the trial itself may be another weapon in the struggle against Hua.
The trial is one of the best weapons which Vice Chairman Deng Xiaoping and the reformers in the Chinese leadership possess in their efforts to remove Hua. And Chinese sources say Hua's agreement to step down was originally extracted under the threat that if he didn't go gracefully, Evidence would be produced of the trial linking him with the suppression of the Tiananmen riots in 1976, and thus with the activities of the Gang of Four. Yet evidently something's gone slightly wrong since that deal was struck, for he's not stepping down gracefully at the next party congress in a few months' time. Instead, all the signs are that he's being pushed out much sooner. But evidently Deng and Hu Yaobang want to keep the weapon of the trial in hand in case they still need to use it, and this is why it's being delayed. Inevitably, the longer the uncertainty lasts, the more extraordinary the rumors become. Almost every day, some news story claims that Hua is under house arrest, only for it to be denied wearily by the government spokesman as sheer fabrication.
Hua Guofeng's rise was so sudden. When Zhou Enlai died in January 1976, Hua, a relative newcomer to power, took a leading role in the ceremonies. He wasn't the favorite to succeed Zhou, yet in April of that year, Hua did become prime minister. Hua was very close politically to the then virtually incapacitated Chairman Mao. When he died in September 1976, Hua took over the chairman's post too. There could be no doubt, it seemed, that foreign dignitaries were really greeting China's new man of power. As Supreme Commander of the Army, Hua held the country's top 3 posts. Hua lost no time in trying to live up to his billing, giving a well-publicized lead to the country's construction and sketching grandiose plans for economic development. Yet though Hua commanded the limelight on state occasions, such as President Tito's visit, there was a shadow at his elbow, Deng Xiaoping. In publicity terms, Hua's European tour last autumn marked the apogee of his power. As an exercise in image projection for foreigners, it was harmless enough. During his official engagements, Hua pleased his hosts with frequent doses of anti-Soviet rhetoric. But even as the foreign plaudits resounded, Hua's power at home was ebbing. Richard Harris, what's the real difference in policy terms between these two men, Deng and Hua?
Well, Deng is a much more open-minded man on economic policies. He isn't afflicted really by communist theory too much. He's concerned with China's productivity. Hua is a man brought up in the Maoist mold, and I think Deng sees him as a man who is so much blessed by Mao and has lived in Mao's surroundings, whereas Deng saw Mao's feet of clay way back in Yan'an 30 or 40 years ago. He can afford to say things and feel things about Mao that Hua can't. So this leaves Deng free, in a way.
Was there ever any possibility of cooperation between them, or do you think that Deng was always out for Hua's political blood?
I wouldn't say he was out for his blood, even though Hua rose to power over Deng's body. I would say that in the first year and a half, that's to say mid-77 to the end of 78, Deng's attitude was, as long as I can carry Hua on my policies, I won't bother to pitch him out. But my own feeling is that Deng has realized as time passed that China's break with Maoism has got to be even greater than he thought himself in 77.
And that Hua was still a stumbling block to that?
Hua was a stumbling block, and he knew also that Hua had certain backers in the army, and this was going to be a trouble to him. So long as he had Hua right at the top there, this would give encouragement for people who were opposing Deng.
Well, the process of undermining Chairman Hua has been a feature this year. It was usually well concealed from the public gaze as Vice Chairman Deng steadily put his own men into place and built a cat's cradle of intrigue that Hua has found virtually impossible to escape. And so the process has continued. Chairman Hua's steady and relentless fall from power began in September. It was the meeting of the National People's Congress. In a 2-hour speech, Hua announced his resignation as Premier of the country's State Council. But Hua left his listeners in no doubt that he was not really in sympathy with Deng Xiaoping's line. He mentioned Mao's name 15 times. He invoked Deng not once. There was no real endorsement of Deng's economic reforms, merely a list of the pitfalls facing the economy. As Hua resigned, Zhao Ziyang, a pragmatic modernizer, took his place as Prime Minister. The trial of the Gang of Four increased the pressure on Hua. Of course, the legacy of ultra-leftism had to be smashed, but in Deng's eyes it didn't matter too much if Mao was besmirched a bit in the process, and Hua was threatened with implication as well, with another Deng supporter, Hu Yaobang, clearly groomed to succeed to the chairmanship. The stage was set for Hua's political departure. Well, let's look first at Hu Yaobang. What sort of leader, as chairman, would he be?
He was in charge of the Youth League all the way through the late 50s and 60s, and he, of course, disappeared in the Cultural Revolution out of favour. He's got a reputation as a conciliator, as a man who's very good at looking at the other person's point of view and presenting his opinions in their terms. And his job will obviously be to rehabilitate the party, because there's no doubt about it that during and since the Cultural Revolution, the party has lost its complete reputation. So I think he's a healer, a man who's to repair the damage rather than a powerful figure in the China of the future.
And the Prime Minister, Zhao, whom you have met, what's he like?
Oh, very alert, very sharp, an extremely intelligent man, quick, and very open-minded, I would say, who's very much concerned with economic development. And one has to remember that, of course, in a country like China, capitalism has never been that terrible, evil thing that communists elsewhere see as what they're up against.